Hello, everyone. I had good response from the last YouTubes that I had, and I'd like to thank everyone who listened and whoever was helped from it. I want to thank YouTube and all the listeners as usual. Getting better on timing, so understanding about how much time it takes to tell certain things, and I'm trying to keep it at a certain time so that it'd be easier for people to listen to the advice and things that I give in the videos, and my account of how taxing it is to lead the Jehovah Witness cult. And this one is part of the judicial meeting because it's right after the judicial meeting, and it's entitled Getting Out of the Jehovah Witness Cult. As I stated in the last one, in the last YouTube, I just wanted to clear this up. I said that when I initiated the judicial meeting, that week to where I actually had the meeting, I had like 3 dreams. Everybody has dreams that they remember, and I think it's very important. I don't think that it's something that you should concentrate so much on, but I think that it helps, things like that. Any things about yourself, whether abstract or in this real world, I think that we should pay attention to the things that happen to our lives, because life is abstract and it's also very real. So the only thing I want to say there is that when the dreams that I had, I feel that they came, that they were a part of my life, and it was a very crazy time when you say you want to leave the Jehovah Witnesses, and I think they helped me out. And in the judicial meeting, I told them that I had the 3 dreams. And one of the brothers, the one who was leading the judicial meeting, tried to, let me see, I put it down. He tried to give me the meaning of them. However, I wasn't really impressed, and I really didn't think too much about what he said. He did say that this is what the dreams mean, but which leads me to something else that I found out when I was doing that YouTube about the judicial meeting. It was never anything, it was not like a spiritual moment. I mean, and what I'm saying is that it wasn't like they were spiritual guides. They didn't mention like Jehovah. I mean, they didn't mention like God or Jehovah, like wants this, Jehovah wants that. As far as God is concerned, since they say Jehovah is God, I didn't hear and I didn't feel anything of the sort as to, oh, Jehovah wants this or Jehovah wants that. And they never even say his name like Jehovah, they just say Jehovah. So to me, I really do think that they're Jehovah. I mean, because I studied linguistics, and I think they pretty much worship the word itself, if you can understand meaning. They understand this word, and everything is about this word, Jehovah, but not the word, God. So people are tricked into believing that in this word instead of the word. So like I said, I had the dreams that I had, I felt like they fit in my life, all the ones that I had. And I really didn't get any spiritual guidance from this, what I feel is a cult. And moving on, I stated last week that I went to, I can't put it in detail because it's in my last YouTube, but I went to stay with my brother, and he said that he was disfellowship too. You can get the information from the last YouTube. And I explained why he was, but he's, of course, like I said, 100%. He was 100% Jehovah's Witness in that mindset. So I'm going to start from there. I drove to his house. I said my car's on lease. I didn't have the mindset to figure out what days or when the car was going to stop or whatever. I didn't know what was going to happen. Anyway, I just knew I had present transportation. I drove to his house, and it was like a single family home, and it was in like kind of not a rural area, but kind of like a rural area, in the outskirts, like a little bit outskirts. And I went to his door, knocked on it, of course, and he opened the door, and I walked in, and when I walked in, he went back to the couch to where he was laying down, and when I walked in, there was a room to the left, immediately to the left. It was not really a hallway or a separate part. So you walk into a room on the left-hand side, and the room is to the left. It's not a separate room, but it's all, you walk into a room. And it's sectioned off by the couches and things like that. And I looked to the left, and there was a TV on. There was no lights on whatsoever. And my half brother was like laying down on the couch. And I said, "What are you doing?" And he goes, I said, "All the lights are out." And he said, oh, how he wasn't doing well. I guess he was kind of depressed or whatever. And he says, "I'm taking these pills." And I looked over, I said, "Where?" And I looked over to the right of the couch. And the TV was to the back of, if you look to the left, the TV was there, I could see it. And then where I am at the entrance, the couch that he was laying on was in front of the TV. So the couch was to the back of where I came in. And I went over to the left part, to the right side of the room. And I looked, and he let me see the pills, and it was like little tranquilizers. And I said, "You can't do this. You can't do this." And I tried to turn on a light, and the light didn't turn on. And I said, "What happened to the lights?" He goes, he says, I'm not paying it, And it was funny now that I think about it. The TV was on, but the lights wouldn't come on. And I said, I said, my brother, I told my brother that he had to, you're going to have to, get this stuff together. You know what I mean? I said, "When was the last time you paid rent or a mortgage or whatever that they had?" And he said he was back on it. And I told him that you have to get up and start doing something. You cannot you cannot be like this. You cannot just, it's not going to work, You have to get yourself together. When have you been on your jobs? He was working construction. He said he stopped everything. And I said, you have to get up. You have to do something. It was like, I said it in a nice way, but a very strong way, admonishing him that he has to do something. All the lights were out here. So I told my brother that I was going to stay. He let me stay with him. And I said, "Where can I stay?" So he got up, and we went over to where it's all on one floor, this section of the house. And we went over to where the rooms are. And I said, "Can I stay in? I'm staying in this room." He goes, "No, you can't stay in this room." It was his son's room. So I said, "Well, then I stay in this room." He goes, "No, you can't stay in this room because that was me and my wife's room." So then I said, "I'll stay in this room." He goes, "No, I'm staying there." And I go, "Well, where can I stay?" And he goes, "I don't think you can stay anywhere." I go, "Why?" He goes, "Because I think you're bad association." And I was like, bad association? And you're disfellowship too? Kind of like that, but I don't think I said that. But I was like, what, So he says, I just don't think you can stay anywhere because you're bad association for me. I think you got to leave. So I said, okay. So then I got my things together. I didn't have too much with me, maybe like a duffel bag. And I left. And I went in my car, and I was working construction on my own. I didn't have a partner. Usually you have a partner because I was like drywall hanger. And I stayed in my car. I went to my jobs, and then I had to stay in my car. So I was staying in my car, and there was one point in time when I was staying in my car that I knew that I had, because I had done this music contest that I explained in the other YouTube also. And I needed to know where the award ceremony was going to be because they had some really influential and good connections that I knew I could work as far as the music was concerned. So I had to go to the house to where I was living. My mother was living there where we had moved, but where I kind of grew up there before I left home, I think I went through, no, I didn't go, I was already graduated from high school when I stayed at that, where I stayed at that home where we were staying. But I stayed there, which I explained in my other YouTubes. It was in my parents' home. So I went back because I remember I said I had to leave the home, to leave my house, and that's the house that we were living in. So I went back there to get my mail because I had this music contest. What I'm doing is I'm cutting a lot of things that's explained in the last bit and explained in the other YouTubes. So I'm going back home to get my mail. So, and it was in the morning, and I still had my car, like I said. So I drove back, and this is something really, I'm setting up because it's something really big. So I arrived at my home where I used to live, like I explained, and I walk up to the door, and there's a screen door, and my sister-in-law is there. My sister-in-law is my brother's wife, and you will understand she's the one that he cheated on, and I explained it in the last video, so you have to go through that. Anyway, she came to the door, and she told me, "You are not allowed at the doorstep." And I just came to get my mail. Anyway, I was so much in shock because here I had grown up here, partly grown up here, and she was allowed to be in the house. And I don't know if I asked for my mail or whatever, but I was in total shock. And she said, "You are not allowed at the doorstep." So I took it, and I was totally surprised and shocked. And I left there, and I got back into the car. And then when I got into the car, they had a cul-de-sac. It's almost like that. And you go around, and you go out the entrance of the community kind of housing, neighborhood. So just before I was leaving the community, but I was still inside the neighborhood, my car stopped. I could not believe it. It stalled because it was on lease, and I wasn't keeping up with it. My ex-wife, or my wife, was the one that was handling it, so I didn't know any of the paperwork, and I didn't call her about it or anything because I knew I didn't have the money to continue the lease. So my car stalled, and I had to wait there. And I waited because I'm almost sure it must have been like a Tuesday, because I knew that they were going to come back from the book study. Everybody understands the book study if you're a Jehovah Witness. Anyway, I waited there, and my stepfather, after a while, maybe I waited an hour or two, I just knew that they would probably help me or whatever to get to somewhere because it was in a rural neighborhood. And they came, and I saw their car, and they saw me stranded. And I kind of showed, because I was in the position I was in, I was kind of humbled to whereas, are you going to help me? Because my car stalled. And I had my hood up, I remember. And I got out of the car. I could see them, and they could see me, and they could see what was happening. And they stopped. It was my stepfather. Now I call him my stepfather-in-law since my mother passed away. And some other people were in the car. I'm almost sure my mother was there. And they stopped for a while, almost like they were making a decision. And then they came to the conclusion and they kept going. So they left me stranded there and they went to the house. With that, because I knew it so for sure, I knew I couldn't go back to the house. I didn't go back to the house, I wasn't upset. I always feel that everybody's decision is everybody's. I always respected people's decisions like that, even if it was to my disadvantage. So I didn't feel, I wasn't angry or anything. I didn't feel like, that was their decision. And I could have just walked to the house and asked them or begged them or whatever, but that was their strong decision. So I walked to get back to where I was living. To get back, I had to do something. I don't know how I did it, but I know I didn't have a car. So I made ends meet some kind of way. I don't know where I found something or whatever. But I did know what I did as far as work is concerned, because I couldn't do construction work, I didn't have the car. But I knew that there was always this place that I used to work at. They always accepted me to work there all the time. So I couldn't do construction work, and I started working in this, I started working in this restaurant that I always worked in. I could always go there and work there. Beautiful boss. The people that I worked with they always accepted me. It was a really nice place to work for. So I started working there full time. And so I couldn't get so because of that, I couldn't get the information for the music contest that I was in. And I ended up actually winning a lot of things in the contest. I think I got like 21 mentions. It was a lot of mentions, but the only problem was I wasn't there and I couldn't connect with anybody. But I called the place later, somebody who, one of the persons that handled the event, and they said, your name was mentioned all the time, you should have came. And they gave me the awards later on. I got the mail, which was late. But, I had like so many songs that won, so many honorable mentions, so many second prize, so many things like that. So anyway, like I said, I just took it. I didn't really get upset or anything. It was just something that happened. So then I told you about my brothers. I mentioned about that I had to leave, and I mentioned that I'm trying to see where I should finish this one, okay? I worked in the rest of my brother. And then I'm going to end this one because I'm figuring out the time now. I'm doing a little bit better as far as keeping them at a certain time. So I got a job. Most likely I was staying in a room or something. I looked in the paper and I think I was staying in a room or something. And it didn't last that long because I was taking the bus one time and I remember my brother paged me because we had these pagers. This is in like 78 or 70, around 78. To where you could be paged. And I got a page from my brother. And my brother called me. I called him because the pager, you get the number and then you call the person. And when I called him, he said that he needed help with the business. So it did help going to his house because it got him to thinking that he did have to do something. And I told him where I was, and he came and picked me up, and I started working with him. I'm gonna leave it at that. But I kind of know where I stayed at now. Some things I don't like to say, but I'm gonna say it for the sake of being honest about this whole thing. I did meet someone, a very good friend. I mean, we became very good friends. It was a man that I was interested in, and I pretty much stayed with him. And we had a nice relationship, and which wouldn't last that long because you'll notice that from what I'm going to tell you in my other YouTube, which is the next one to finish this. I got a job working. Okay, no, which is going to finish this YouTube, getting out of the Jehovah Witness cult, getting out of the Jehovah Witness cult. So I did meet someone. They kind of helped me out as far as a place to stay until I got this job or until I went back to work with my brother. Okay, and then I'll clear it up because because now I can see a lot of things that happened since I am since I'm telling you this. A lot of things clear up to where I understand what's happening. So this one is still after the judicial meeting, and it shows how rough the road is when you first leave the Jehovah Witness organization. I don't regret anything about leaving about the hard times that I had, because knowing yourself and getting to understand yourself, it's priceless. I mean, you cannot have a job, you cannot have a place to stay, you can have nothing, but just knowing that you're safe with God, Jesus, is the most important thing in your life. And my next YouTube will clear up a lot of things that I wasn't really sure about in this YouTube, but that's the gist of what's going on as soon as I leave the organization. Thank you very much.